This is 8-Minute Insights by Texture Capital, bringing you concise, expert insight for better markets. And now your host, Richard Johnson.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of 8-Minute Insights, where I speak with industry experts and get their take on the most important issues. My name is Richard Johnson. I'm the founder and CEO of Texture Capital. We're a FINRA member and SEC-registered broker-dealer specializing in digital securities. So we help clients compliantly issue tokens representing equity, debt, revenue share, royalties, and so forth. And we operate a regulated trading platform for investors to buy and sell the tokens. I'm very happy to welcome today's guest, Oscar Jofre. He's the CEO and founder of KoreConX, the all-in-one platform that manages private companies' critical capital market activity and stakeholder communications. With an innovative approach to ensure compliance with securities regulations and corporate law, KoreConX offers a single ecosystem to connect companies to capital market and secondary markets, and also broker-dealers like Texture. Oscar's been in the crowdfunding and startup space for 14 years and previously held roles in technology and cannabis businesses. He's a featured speaker on fintech, crowdfunding, compliance, shareholder management, investor relations, and transparency in both the USA and globally. Texture Capital and KoreConX recently announced a partnership. KoreConX's capital raising technology and transfer agent services are now integrated with Texture's digital securities broker-dealer and ATS, giving issuers a seamless solution for all their primary offering and secondary trading needs. So let's get into this episode here. I'm going to kick it off straight away, Oscar. What was your motivation to start KoreConX?
David Weild. Very
Weild,
simple answer.
the father
David
of the
Weild,
Jobs Act.
The father of the Jobs Act. I had the opportunity one day to meet him by accident. It was just one of those things. And he inspired me, as an entrepreneur. He was talking about words like democratization. That's going back 14 years ago, even before the Jobs Act was implemented. So my entire motivation is all driven by him. As an entrepreneur, we needed a new way to raise capital.
Great. Now, there was a lot of fanfare when the Jobs Act came out in 2014, but I still speak to people who haven't really been following the evolution. They often say to me, "Oh, that never really lived up to the hype." Do you agree to that? And what's your kind of counter to that?
So the Jobs Act was signed in by President Obama in 2012, in April 2012. In fact, we just celebrated the 11th year. There's no other regulation that has had the impact like the Jobs Act, creating jobs, helping companies raise capital. We're talking $156 billion was done just last year. So I want everybody to understand this impact. Up until President Obama, my apologies, signed the Jobs Act to make it a law, and the securities regulators to implement it, all the money that was raised in the United States was under one or two regulations. Private, only the high net worth, the 1%ers got access. That means at that time, $4 trillion. Today, they don't have that $4 trillion anymore. $156 billion of that was raised using the Jobs Act regulations. So it is having an impact. I understand the naysayers. I heard all of it. It's going to be full of fraud. Not even close to what the other side is. It's never going to live up to it. It's living up to it. In fact, the broker dealers made a horrible mistake in the early days by not looking at it carefully enough. And now they're looking at these online platforms. They've raised $430 million. That's right. $430 million, and you missed out on 8% commissions.
Yeah. And I think there's been some changes as well along the way here. So I know we increased the limit on crowdfunding from 1 million to 5 million. So that makes it a lot more attractive. That 156 billion number is very interesting. I think I don't know if you have the numbers to hand, but that's been the growth has been quite rapid in the last few years. Would you agree with that as well? So we're just kind of getting started in a way here.
We are. I get asked this question often, Oscar, where we are in the state. We're only 11 years old as a new sector. It is a brand new sector. We're servicing, just in the United States, 38 million privately held companies. As you heard President Biden announce, there were 10 million companies created in the last 2 years. More companies were incorporated in the last 24 months than in the history of the United States since the 2008 financial collapse. So is our sector growing? During COVID, everybody thought we were going to take a nosedive. That's not what happened. The sector kept growing, a percentage of 200%. All the platforms were growing. Investing was growing. People got used to investing online. That's the reason why last year, these are 22 numbers, Richard, 156 billion was raised using the Jobs Act regulation. So the impact has been done and felt, and it's just growing by year.
Yeah. And, what about the current environment? What are you seeing now? Like traditional sources of capital, like VCs, have really, really closed the purse strings there. So what are you seeing? Are you seeing more companies coming and looking to kind of leverage crowdfunding as an alternative capital source?
So what we've done for 2023 in order to attract that audience, online capital formation, because crowdfunding has had a bit of a stigma in the market as you get higher when you start raising capital from venture capital, private equity, that they keep thinking Kickstarter. It's not. This is regulated capital raising, no different than the way they do it today when they form LPs, sending out emails to their buddies. This is no different. The only difference is you're doing it on your website with a registered vendor broker dealer like Texture Capital. You're doing everything completely transparent. So yes, venture-based companies today. I just attended an event in Dana Point, California, in the medtech sector. Two CEOs who became venture capitalists, being 100% candid with the audience of 3,000 people listening in, that for the next 18 to 24 months, you need to find a different way to capitalize your company if you're going to stay in business. And what I tell people is that we're not an alternative. We're just a different chapter. That's right, a different chapter in the journey of capital raising. So online capital formation is the grow up of crowdfunding, where you can raise up to 5 million one regulation or 75 million using another regulation. That will go a long way in building your company. And venture capitalists are going, at the moment, they're not going to be funding anyone for the next 18 to 24 months. So you need to pay attention to what these regulations can do for you.
Absolutely. And I enjoy working with you guys to help get that message out. Now, KoreConX is one of the very few companies out there that can use Reg A or even a Reg CF offering to issue digital securities, which are recorded on blockchain. Can you talk about how that process works in your company?
Sure. So the journey that we took a few years back, it was a hard one. We made a decision that we were going to look at the regulations and find the right blockchain technology. And as it turns out, it wasn't a public chain. It was a permission-based infrastructure that needed to, in order to pass through the regulations. So we went through the front doors. You can Google us on Edgar. You'll see all the descriptors of our chain that's fully compliant for doing a digital securities token or NFT for either Reg A or Reg CF. So basically what happens, the representation of ownership is in a token form that you can then trade or transfer within Texture Capital secondary ATS. The idea here is that we've taken the mystery of blockchain and made it into real life. Most people don't even realize that what they have is a token. They don't need to. They just need to know that this is my ownership and I can sell it, I can transfer it, and nobody's going to take it away from me. So that's the real value that I see within digitization and tokenization, is the fluidity and the ability for them to move it. And of course, that immutable ownership that the investor wants.
Yeah. One of the most, I guess, exciting areas and kind of new developments that we're seeing in the space around, I guess, tokenization and Reg A is the development of fractional marketplaces. And we're working with you, on a couple of clients around that. Can you kind of explain for everyone watching here what a fractional marketplace is and how we Texture and KoreConX help support that?
So fractional marketplaces are an exciting movement, and it works so beautifully with Regulation 8+. So let's take collectibles. And this is just the first iteration, what we're seeing. So let's say you got collectible shoes, collectible cards, art, music, whatever it may form. You can now create a LLC, a series where people can buy and trade those securities directly in one platform, but fully compliant. Why? Because Texture Capital is there for the primary and the secondary to be able to handle that. So the journey of the investor is completely done in one environment. But what these marketplaces, it's not just for buying and selling, they're educating. It's a community. So it's all of it in one element. But I now see it that it's going to be expanded beyond that. We're going to see it in cannabis. We're going to see it in real estate. And people go, well, why will it work for them? Because there are those types of entities that have multiple ownership, and now they need to raise capital for a number of them. Here, they can put it all in one environment. And you can then allow them to trade back and forth between those ownership properties and maintaining them in your platform. So you're right. I think it's not for everyone. This is not to be mistaken. I want to do one raise, and no, you have to be a habitual, issuer for this to work. But when it does, it's beautifully. And the one who benefits is the investors getting access to an asset class that you weren't getting before. Imagine owning a fractionalization of a song that you like, or an art piece, or a pair of shoes, or a belt.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head there. We're using this technology and the regulations to compliantly open up these alternative asset classes for new retail investors. And we're just getting started here. I think that's going to be a very big thing going forward. One last question, almost out of time. Very quickly, Oscar. If an issuer out there is thinking about raising capital to a Reg A or a Reg CF offering, what are the 3 most important pieces of advice you would give them?
So number one, obviously work with a team that is there to work with you from the beginning to the end. There's a lot of players out there jumping into this market, and they're coming in, getting your money, and they're running out the minute you run out of it. You need teams that have been there. We've been here 14 years along with others like Texture Capital that will be here for the long haul. Number two, understand the regulations. What do you need to do? They're not difficult. The compliance part of it, it's going to be hard to get it done, but it's an important piece. You need the broker dealers, you need the escrow, you need the FINRA broker dealer, you need the FINRA secondary ATS, the SEC registered transfer agent. So you need a partner that brings it all together with all the participants to make it work. But the third is probably the most important. Get ready to build a community, or start building your community. With no community, this regulation is going to take you a little bit longer for you to build out. Every business has a community. Whether you're B2B or B2C, it doesn't really matter. You need to build a community to be successful.
Yep, you need the crowd for crowdfunding. Absolutely right, Oscar. Thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to working with you going forward. Please reach out to us on social media or through our websites. We'll be happy to talk to you about a Reg A or Reg CF offering or fractional marketplace. Thanks so much. Thank you, Oscar.
Thank you.
This has been 8-Minute Insights. Be sure to follow Texture Capital on LinkedIn, where we will release a new episode every week. You can also find us on Twitter at texture_capital and on the web at texture.capital. The foregoing discussion is for information purposes only and does not constitute a solicitation to buy or sell securities. Private securities offerings are not registered with the SEC and are considered highly speculative. An investment in private securities may result in the loss of your entire capital contribution. Blockchain is a new technology and unproven in financial markets. There is no guarantee that tokenization will enable any secondary market liquidity in the future, and your investment may remain illiquid.